All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the Mansfield Downtown Partnership Finance and Growth Committee to order. This is our February 16th, 2022 meeting. We have not yet got a quorum, but we're expecting people to join us. I'm going to reorder the agenda just so we can get some things out of the way before we need to vote. And the first item that I'm going to ask us to discuss is in-person meetings. I will tell you what the council has done. The council has decided to follow the advice of our Eastern Highlands Health District, which is until Talent County is below the high transmission rate category for 2 weeks. Then we can begin to consider lifting masking and virtual meeting rules. So at the moment we're about 40 per 100,000, and to get out of this category we have to be below 15 per 100,000. So we are quite a distance from that. All of Connecticut except for about 5 towns are still in the red, and those 5 towns are on the western part of the state. Our 40 ranking puts us above a number of our surrounding communities. I'm sorry, below a number of our surrounding communities. There are a couple who have 36 per 100,000, but there are plenty who have much higher numbers. So I don't expect that you're going to get a call for in-person meetings from the council until March. We're going to discuss this at the next council meeting when Rob Miller is not on vacation. But my guess is that he and we will be sticking with the same guidelines. And for us, the real issue is we don't know who will attend from the public, and we don't have any real way of monitoring that. So we have a number of people on the council who are at high risk for one reason or another, and so we probably will be staying virtual. And I would recommend that this group stay virtual as well. Cynthia?
Tony, so I know the governor's executive order was, I guess, what has changed in terms of, was it the end of March that he was allowing you to stay virtual? And then does there have to be a whole new legislature decision? Or I just remember Sarah Ann telling me a couple of months ago that I thought it was until the end of March you were allowed to, and then it had to be re-upped, so to speak. Or is that?
I don't think there's any mandate that we be in person.
Okay.
My guess is just as he's doing with masking, he's going to leave that to the towns. So we don't see any reason for us to go to deviate from the recommendations of the health district.
Tony, for what it's worth, I agree with you.
Thank you. Steve, of course, is working, and so is Cynthia, so they are both stuck out there in person. But I know Cynthia can control to some extent who she interacts with. I don't know about you, Steve. Are you comfortable? Do you feel safe?
Ish. Yeah, I mean, I'm vaccinated and boosted and wear my mask when I go out, so it's fine.
Do you have any rules for people who come into your office?
Aside from wearing masks, no. we don't have a ton of foot traffic. I'd say maybe that's like a couple people a week. So, well,
the governor's recommendation for towns in the red is if you are fully vaccinated, you still should be wearing masks in indoor places where there are other people if you are unvaccinated, you should wear a mask when you are around other people, whether it's indoors or outdoors.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I keep a stack in my car. Makes it easy.
so if that's okay with you, Cynthia, that's my recommendation to the council and, I mean, to the board.
Yeah, whatever the pleasure is of, I just want to make sure that we're not violating some state something, that's all.
No, and
Yeah, I'm up.
we have reissued the masking, the orders for downtown, for businesses. We did that on Monday.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I just wasn't sure if the virtual thing was something else, so that's all good.
Yeah. Ryan is joining us shortly. He had a meeting that extended too long. All right. You want to go over the financials while we're still here?
Sure.
That will require a vote at some point, but you can at least educate us.
Sure. Not too much noteworthy, I guess is the way I would put it. So I did number the packet. So I'll just probably go right to the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So that's page 4. So we will start our, up in terms of revenues, if you look at percent of adopted budget on the right-hand column, the far right, we will start our membership campaign late this month, early March. So we're putting together the packets for renewals. And then again, just as a reminder, the town money comes in on a quarterly basis. We have the Yukon commitment. So not too much earth shattering there. Under the Fund 270 on page 5, we have started the bike tour solicitation. I'll just bring Ryan in. I think Denise just sent that out about a week ago, and we've sort of timed out our different solicitations for Moonlight Movies, Summer Concert Series, and Celebrate Mansfield Festival. The festival's in April, and I think our outreach for the concerts and the Moonlight Movies will be, which comes under now Downtown Stores activities, will be in mid-March. So
When you talk the festival in April, what are you talking about there?
that's when we start soliciting for sponsorships. I'm sorry, I think I said memberships. I'm sorry, Tony. Sponsorships.
Okay, so that's the beginning of solicitation or the end of solicitation?
The beginning.
Okay.
The festival date is September 24th.
Okay, I thought you said the festival date was in April. That's what.
I could have, I might have. I've been here since 6:15, so who knows what I'm saying.
Welcome, Mario. Hey, Ryan. So we now have a quorum, right?
We do.
Okay. We had a very brief discussion of the question of virtual or in-person meetings, and I shared the council's decision to postpone this discussion until Rob Miller is back, and until that time we are going with the recommendations we've had in the past, which is until Talon County falls below high transmission for 2 weeks, that we will keep our meetings virtual. And so this group seems to agree to stay virtual, at least until things change. And they may change in March, I don't know. The other thing we've begun to do is look at the financials. So go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, so just Mario and Ryan, we were just on page 5 of the financials, so my handwritten page numbers on the bottom. Nothing's changed on the town square project funds. We'll see through the strategic plan if we end up tapping into some of those funds. Nothing on page 7. On the Transit Services Fund, so Ryan and I need to talk about this, but so Ed Pavelsek, who's been doing the cleaning downtown, like cleaning the red tables and chairs, doing a trash run Monday through Friday, and cleaning our benches out in front of Nash Simmer, he has decided not to re-up his 3-year contract. So we have it budgeted, but we need to figure out who's going to help us with that. Because in order to kind of keep things looking great, I do feel it's important. And I've briefly updated facilities and public works more as an FYI, and do you have some ideas kind of thing, but I need to talk to Ryan, and I just haven't gotten back to Ryan and Tasha to schedule a meeting. So
How much have we spent on that in the past?
it's $550 a month.
And this, an individual does it, or is it a business?
It's an individual, so you may have seen Ed around. He has worked for Mike Taylor for years and years. Yeah, Mario knows him well because he's always around. He's a great guy. He worked for the Oaks. He worked for Leyland. He worked for everybody. But this doesn't really pencil out for him at this point, and so I mean, it probably never did. So we just need to relook at how best to do this in an efficient way, in a way that's, I feel is important, because there's just a lot of stuff that blows around. Obviously we have a high student population. So, weekends you'll see probably some more trash than you would, so it's just something we need to figure out how best to do this.
And is he quitting Mike Taylor too, or is he just quitting us?
He's just quitting us.
Can we raise his pay and keep him?
Tony, I don't know. I mean, and not to get in the weeds too much, but he had some help, and I don't know if he does it at like 6:30 in the morning, which he's an early morning guy. I'm just not sure whether this is something he wants to keep doing.
Okay.
But we can talk about, I can talk to Ryan about that.
I wonder if any of our local landscapers would be interested in doing it.
Possibly, and there may be an avenue with the facilities staff, in talking to Alan today. But I'm sort of jumping the gun a bit because I haven't talked to Ryan, but there may be some options out there. But it's something that, it's one of those things that he and I laugh about it, that you don't think about it. And it's because, in my opinion, he does a really thorough job, and nobody sees him when he's doing it. So you don't know, except people that come in early. So, I mean, he's just very thorough, and he's proud of what was developed here, I think, and wants to take care of it. But times change, people do things for a long time, and, time to make some changes, I think.
Yeah, Cynthia, you and we can definitely discuss soon. I don't know exactly what the conversation was with Alan, but I know facilities has also been approached or reapproached by Mansfield Discovery Depot, because they're not happy with the quality of the custodial services that they're getting from a contractor now. And, it would be more expensive for them for sure to pay the town for our facilities staff to clean their space. But in the past, when we did it, the quality was much higher. But basically the long and the short of it is, doing that for MDD is kind of pushing the envelope of what we can do within the capacity of existing staffing without having to hire a new full-time person. Of course, then things get more expensive if you're talking about benefits for that person. So just, if we accommodate the partnerships, or if we accommodate what you're describing, and if we do the same for Mansfield Discovery Depot, it probably would, push us into a new cost level that I just want to make sure everybody's clear on exactly what that would look like.
Ryan, we're going to reduce custodial staff from the school in the elementary schools. Is there some way of transferring those people over?
Yeah, there will be some staff savings, but one of the things the council will, hear from me on, because this is being proposed, by the school district and Alan is actually creating a new position, a custodial supervisor position. Right now, Bill Treach, our assistant facilities director, among many other things, has to directly supervise the custodians, and Alan's of the mindset that Bill's time and talents would be better directed elsewhere. So he really wants to create a custodial supervisor position, oversee all the custodians. And so, while there still, will be some savings, I guess suffice it to say, without attaching specific dollar amounts to it, some of these staffing proposals that are being floated my way for consideration now are quickly eating into some of that savings.
All right, well, you'll keep us abreast on that because clearly it's important to make sure that, I mean, it's part of our original agreement that it is in very high quality, and we've worked hard to get it, to keep it here, and we certainly don't want to lose that.
Understood.
So then the next three sheets are the expense and revenue sheets for the parking garage mainly. Still, you'll see I'm sorry, my eyes here, the net income year to date is about 52,600. They are, expectations are lower than they thought, and that was partly because of that transition with the vendor for the garage where they had to keep the gates up. And I think I talked about that at the last meeting. So I think we're in pretty good shape. There are still a little fits and starts, but I think we've got pretty much everything set there as far as that system goes. And I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Questions? Our current arrangements with custodial staff for the garage and all of that stuff working out okay?
Yeah, so we did go July 1st. We went to the town cleaning our offices. So we previously, actually Ed did it for a while, and then we had a contractor, and now the town custodial service. And then Laz actually, which is a good thing, they brought on somebody part-time specifically to clean the garage. So I was really happy to hear that because, mostly they're enforcing and answering questions and letting people out if they get stuck. So now they have somebody dedicated because their previous person had left a couple of months ago, dedicated to cleaning. So that's good.
Okay. Any questions? Is the library going to reopen?
It's been open.
It's been open? Great.
Yep. Yeah, I think this summer, Caitlin opened it up. Yeah. So I think the goal, Tony, would be to, if the committee agrees, to recommend approval of the financials to the board at its next meeting.
All right. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mario. Is there a second?
I'll second it too.
Okay, seconded by Ryan. I can't see you, Ryan, so I don't know where
Yeah,
that
sorry.
disembodied voice appeared from.
Camera
I
wasn't
didn't
working.
see anybody's mouth moving, so I'm glad you identified yourself. All right, so the motion is to recommend the financial statements for approval to the board. Any questions about it or disagreements? All right, I rule we voted unanimously to do that. There's a set of minutes from January 19th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Steve. Is there a second?
There is a second.
Paul, seconded by Paul. Any comments, corrections? Anybody have any questions or doubts? Are we all going to vote in favor? I rule they're adopted unanimously. Strategic plan, Cynthia.
Okay, give me a sec, Tony. Can I just to clarify, so when that is the proper language, the chair ruled that whatever the motion is was adopted unanimously? Adopted, is that,
Just say adopted unanimously.
okay, got it. So I don't know if you want me to share my screen with the implementation matrix,
Please.
or, pardon?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, let me just, no, that's the wrong thing. Sorry. I gotta move this. There we go.
Can you make it bigger?
I'm working on it. Hold on.
My old eyes can't see any of that.
Yeah, can you see that? I know it's still not great.
Yeah, well, sort of, yes. Bigger would be better.
I think that's as big as it gets.
Okay, I can make mine.
No, it gets bigger.
Oh, wait a second. There. All right.
So Tony, I know everybody except Paul has seen this through the board meeting. We can focus on the two that are focused on financial items, or I can go through the whole thing.
Let's start with the things that this committee might be responsible for.
Okay. So we'll go down to number, I think 6. Although I'm not sure why I said that was, I think I said that was related. Let me just double check, I might have. Okay, I know 10. Yeah, I think this was sort of from an administrative standpoint, but we'll talk about this briefly. So I had, we interviewed some folks for our 19-hour admin position, and still I'm doing some thinking about our candidates. So hopefully by next week, we'll make a decision on that. And then my hope is to recruit potentially a UConn part-time student to help us with supporting mainly Denise and Kathleen with events and marketing activities. So I have an entire process from UConn that Kara and some folks in career services have helped me with. So I'm hoping to potentially get somebody in the summer or the fall to help with to help in the office. So that's that piece.
So that would be a paid job, not an educational opportunity.
No, probably an educational opportunity, because I have not budgeted for. We do have the opportunity, though, let me back up a little bit, Tony, to get a work study student. So that would be something where our costs would be minimal.
I would recommend a work study student over an intern, frankly. A work study student expects to do work, an intern expects to have a sort of self-directed program, and you will pardon my cynicism about college students. I love them dearly, but I have tried employing them for years, and you do better if you expect them to actually do work than if they're there just for their own learning.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I forget that I had several interns when it was just me. So I keep forgetting that I had a series of probably 4 or 5 interns. And time goes by, you forget. So
Were they helpful?
yeah. I mean, mainly they were, because it was just me, they were helping at the front desk, answering phones. One of them was on this committee.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm going way back. I think he became a town manager eventually. This is what happens when you're 20 years in. I'm sorry.
That's okay. A former student of mine just became the head of DAS. So
See, there you go. Exactly. All right, so then probably the more targeted piece is, and Paul, just so you know, I think I mentioned in the email, so the first 11 strategies out of 19 are what we're calling tier 1. So those are the top priorities. So the board's really focusing on those. So number 10 is, and this will look familiar because we've talked about this many times, developing our financial plan, and also new levels of donations required of property owners sustain our efforts. So I do have a hot off the press update on that. So I think, as most of you know, Kyle and I right now meet with the Hart folks every 3 weeks or so to update them on where we are, for them to update us a little bit on what's going on. You know, we had 2 asks of them yesterday morning. So we asked them to endorse the strategic plan and its implementation plan, and we did ask them for a start of $10,000 commitment. So they agreed to both. And Kyle and I are trying to get a meeting with the Oak Tree folks next week. And so we're waiting to hear from them. It's a little more difficult with them because they're on the West Coast. So you've got to measure our availability with the time change. So Tony and Kyle and I are speaking next week to look into this a little bit further. You know, is this something that would come under this committee? Should it be a working group? So Paul, one of the things we've talked about with the board is developing these 3 or 4 working groups that would take on these 11 priorities. And I've done an early draft that Kyle's looked at that I'll have for the board meeting on March 3rd. So, but any feedback, you know, for Tony and me when we meet with Kyle would be helpful. You know, this is important, but has always been, you know, we had the one candidate last year and then we waited until the plan was done. And, you know, not to my surprise, it came out as a priority again. So I'm sorry, Tony, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, one of my concerns is that we really need to get the owners more active in the partnership, whether that means giving them seats on the board or not. But I would really ask them to make a contribution that is not equivalent necessarily, but comparable with what the town and the university contribute, but to be part of the organization in a formal way with formal seats on the board, seat or seats. Because we have 3 separate owners, and not counting the apartments, not counting the condos. So I personally am no good whatsoever at developing fundraising strategies. The last time we tried it, I was an abject failure. And so I don't think that this is something I should be put in charge of, unless we have a committee that is really gung-ho, knows what they're doing, and is capable of talking to people asking for donations. My concern is that unless there is something that a donor gets in return, we aren't going to find donors of any significant size. And, you know, this has always been the problem with membership. What do you get for being a member? What's the benefit? And now that the project is up and running, there's a real question about what you get. And so I'm concerned that somebody else needs to do this besides me, because I really don't understand how it would work. But anyway, clearly somebody needs to do something, and I think I've been arguing that we need to put the owners on the board if we really want this to be successful. Comments, questions? Mario?
Cynthia, if you can elaborate, how challenging was it for them to buy into the strategic plan and actually accept, offering the cash amount?
Yeah, so this was sort of the second meeting that we had with them. So the first meeting was to, well, not second, but as part of the strategic plan, introduce the strategic plan to them. Talk about what typically a property owner, based on the value of their property, might contribute. And was a fairly high amount. And we weren't surprised that that was not considered feasible. So again, they're sort of answering to their investors. So the Oaks is giving 8,000 a year. So my suggestion to Kyle was, let's start at 10 and go from there. They did not balk on that. They want to know what the money's going for too. So we're at the staff level working on, we've just started like a combination of what that would go for. So they have given in the past for events. So that could be something. Public infrastructure is something they're very interested in. They want to see, more tables and chairs on the square, maybe some other things going on there. So we need to strategize as a staff team first, just to see what the needs are. So, our goal would be by 2023 to have 30,000, or really 2022. But, we'd like to see the Oaks contribute a little bit more. I think at this point we could ask that. But, I think Kyle, we're sensitive to we're still coming out of the pandemic. They still have vacancies. So there's sort of this mix of, I think, feeling that there needs to be a commitment. I think everybody agrees to that, but what feels right, things are going really well with them. So, which is a real, as Paul can attest, it's a real great improvement. We have different folks and it's been really, I think, productive. So, sorry, that was my long-winded answer, Mario, but.
No, that was really good. I mean, trying to understand how it is that we can bring, the benefit of signing on, and to your point, what is it that we're going to present to them, whether it's marketing, whether it's, tables that are in their name, whatever the case may be. To Tony's point, what is it in for them, basically, to make it worthwhile.
And I'm glad you mentioned marketing, Mario, because I wouldn't even be able to put a number on that, because it's the amount of marketing that we do, since they don't really do any, is very high. The work that Kathleen does is amazing. And so there is a cost to that. There's a staff cost to that. And so, that could, I guess, be evaluated to be an in-kind service, so to speak, but it's not without significance at all.
Sure. And they need to be aware of that, I'm sure.
Exactly. And we have told them that, but I think it needs to be reiterated
Right.
all the time, because I think that is probably the biggest thing that we do for them, for downtown stores, which helps them.
I think that's the major thing we do.
Yep, it is.
I mean, if you show
But
them our budget and say that 90% of this goes to marketing downtown.
Yeah, like I said, we haven't delved into it based on, the conversation was just yesterday, but yeah, I mean, I agree, Tony. Yep.
And it's very much in the interest of the town and the university if they succeed. So there is self-interest here, but on the other hand, the success is based on their making profits. So, they really they ought to be paying for the skin in the game here that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that they did agree to was to serve on a working group or committee. And so that's another, I think the way Kyle posed it at the last board meeting was to see them more as partners versus the property owners. And I liked, that, I liked the way that sounded.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So we're
great.
getting there. I
Congratulations. Yeah.
What's that, Mario?
I was going to say, congratulations. That's great. Just to
Yeah,
repeat
we're
that with
baby
the other
steps.
two.
Baby steps.
Yep.
So,
Now that's Hart, and Hart is all local, but Oak Tree is the other retail owner.
right.
And
So
are
they're
any of
the,
them, are any of them local?
no, I'm not sure where one of the guys is. Dennis, he is in California, and I think John is out there as well. Their commercial leasing agent is out of Boston, just like Hart's is.
That's what I thought.
So they know, like the leasing agents know each other, and I think Hart knows Eastern Realty, so they just don't, the principals don't know each other. So that was another thing we talked about, whether it's a tenanting strategy or something else, is to get them on a call too. So we're trying to have the individual calls and then have a group call to just introduce people to each other. We understand there will be competition in some ways, but I think for them all to sort of see the big picture would be helpful.
They're not going to win if they're taking business from each other.
No, but I hear what you're saying, Tony. I think that, they could say, well, we have this space and we have somebody knocking on our door, but we don't have like the Grill 86 space, for instance. I mean, that's a large space. If somebody's approaching Hart, they can send them to Oak Tree and say, look, they've got some big, hopefully that happens or has been happening.
Well, Gino's is a big space too.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big. Yeah, 7,000 square feet is Grill 86, the former Grill 86. So it's huge.
All right, what do you need from us?
I think it was more, informational and questions. I think that, at the March 3rd board meeting, hopefully, well, the call that Tony, you and I will have with Kyle, and then hopefully at the board meeting, the board will make some decisions on what committees or working groups will take on some of these projects. And some of them, I mean, especially the first two, so the signage, which is underway, those are really staff. I mean, I don't know that we need, everybody's a volunteer, so we also want to be conscious of that. I mean, that's something, those two are well on their way. So I don't think there needs to be a lot of extra involvement necessarily. And we did hold some stakeholder meetings on the signage, and we're going to have a survey with our stakeholders, and then we'll have a public process for that too. So.
Well, and the town has already gotten its 2 new big signs. So, I mean, that really is underway.
Yeah, but this is so to compare. So, how UConn has its whole new sign system that it's had up for about 1.5 years. This would be what this plan would be for a comprehensive sign system that would be funded over a certain number of years, hoping that the council would be receptive to that.
Ryan, is any of that money in our ARPA or other kind of planning?
It's, it's baked into the capital improvement program requests that have been submitted by staff. But 1 second, guys, but it's not currently part of the rescue plan funding.
Okay. I think Ryan is on babysitting duty.
It's always
All
very
right.
exciting when I walk through the door when I get home.
All right, keep going, Cynthia.
Okay, so we can move to just a general update on downtown, if that works, Tony.
Sure.
Unless you want me to go through the rest of these.
Does anybody want Cynthia to go through the rest of these? I don't hear anybody saying yes.
I vote general because I'm not in town, so I don't really know what is going on.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Brooklyn Dumplings, we were walking down the street, Kathleen, Denise, and I, we ran into Matt Riscani, who's the owner of Brooklyn Dumplings. And some of you may recall that he owned the Wingstop, Moe's, and Mooyah franchises. He was actually on the former business committee for a while. So he gave us a sneak peek into Brooklyn Dumplings. So it's this automat system, which is really cool. So there's like 30 of them. So he's hoping to open next week. We'll see. I think he's still waiting for some approvals and, but you know, it's totally contactless. The website for Brooklyn Dumplings is really good. So I would go on, just type in, you know, Google Brooklyn Dumplings, and you can see why they decided to do the automat format, you know, where they're looking to open other franchises. Matt said this is the first one outside the one in Brooklyn that's going to be ready. So it's a cool concept. The other big thing that we've been working on with Thread City Development, Willimantic, is the Mansfield Willie Restaurant Week. And I want to recognize Kathleen and Margaret working with their team on the promotion that they've been doing. So if you go to taste2towns.com and taste with the number 2, towns.com, you'll see all the participating restaurants, sponsors, and I want to thank Steve for being a sponsor. So we're really excited. It kicks off on Monday, and their menus are listed as well. So we have 8 restaurants / food establishments in Mansfield. So that's exciting.
I couldn't find the menus when I looked, but.
You want me to
maybe-
pull it up?
No, I'll go look again.
Okay. Yeah, some of them weren't up, Tony. Like, I think they're almost all up now, but yeah,
Yeah.
if you go participate in restaurants and click on the picture, you'll see it. But there's a huge, I was showing Steve, although with my fog thing in the back, that there's a half-page ad in the Chronicle today.
Oh, nice.
So, and then Kathleen's been doing all kinds of social posts. We did the Wayne Norman show yesterday morning. Andrew Goot from Stone Row Kitchen and Chris McNabbie from Thread City. So Tony, I have to give you a lot of credit for encouraging us all to meet. You know, that was probably a year plus, and then we finally kind of pulled it together. So, and I give Andrew the credit for thinking Restaurant Week might work. So we'll see how it goes. It's been fun.
Well, this is, you know, a collaboration between these two communities is really long overdue, and particularly around economic development stuff. We really need to break down the barriers that have been there for generations, and this is just one way to start it.
So that's all I had. You know, again, Denise is planning for events starting in April with National Poetry Month. So we'll kick off our season. We will be here before we know it.
All right. I think that's everything on the agenda. Is there anything else that anybody wants to discuss that's financial in nature? Cynthia, we've got a budget that includes the increase in the higher percentage for salaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
And that's gone to the board already.
No. So the way, well, it went to the town, which is an important piece. So it's in the town, or will be in the town system. So we wait now until we do all the evaluations. So Kathleen and Denise will have their evaluation March 14th. And then my evaluation is April. It's actually the day of the April board meeting.
Okay.
And so we would have the budget approved at that point, in case there's any changes with staff salaries at that point.
I have the great honor of chairing the Finance and Personnel Board of CROG. Thank you, Matt Hart. And they're going to be talking about finding ways of matching the approaching the 7% COLAs cost of living inflation in their next year's pay package. So I will expect that if the inflation rate stays the way it is, that we are going to get requests from town unions to do something about wage adjustments. I would be surprised if we don't. But in any case, that's a future issue for sure.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get the last two collective bargaining agreements put to bed sooner than later, because, you know, we didn't know how long this was going to last. So get them to agree to a number that seems palatable before you see these 6 and 7% numbers last for a particularly long time.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Then I believe a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Moved by Mario, seconded by Paul. I like talking to you guys. I'm sorry to see you go so fast, but it's 5:22 and I think we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.